Welcome to this week's Ask GMBN, where I try and answer your questions sent in via social media using the hashtag AskGMBN or in the comment section down below these videos. I'll start this one with a question from Rob FULCHER, who's a road rider. He's just bought himself a cross-country hardtail and he likes to have his saddle nice and high for pedalling efficiency, but finds it hard to do a proper bunny hop like I talk about in my skills videos. Well, you will find it that little bit harder because your seat's high, you can't move your hips around quite so much to get that L shape on the manual, then up and forward to lift the rear wheel. So yes, you do have to rely on a spud hop a little bit. Try and use your hips as much as possible, but yes, you might have to pull the feet a little bit because you can't stand up in front of the saddle too much. What I'll do is I'll send you to a video. It is how to ride a cross-country bike fast with anti-last. That should help a little bit.
So in this section here, you can see there's two distinct line choices. You've got the line on the left, where you can see there's more upright rocks, which are one, going to slow you down and take your speed, but two, could potentially damage your tyre or damage your lightweight cross-country wheel. If you look at the right-hand side, it's much smoother, there's less rocks to hit, or they're smoother to roll over, which means that you're going to carry more speed, less chance of damaging your wheels, and also it gives you a much better exit to the next corner, so you're going to be able to carry your speed through the whole section much better.
The next question comes from Tim BRAKEFIELD. He says he's bought his first legit hardtail. He's got some super grippy flat pedals for it, but he really struggles to keep his feet on the pedals in fast sections when he's spinning in the wrong gear. He says he keeps sliding off them and whacking his shins. We've all done that. I would say with flat pedals, especially when you're going fast, just try and push a slightly slower cadence. So put it into a slightly harder gear. That way you're not going to be spinning your feet all over the place and hopefully they'll stay more planted to those pedals. Next one comes from Rick BIESSMAN. He says when he goes to the bike park, he finds himself needing at least 2 runs before he starts feeling confident and ready to go. Any tips on warming up in the parking lot? I would say just, get on your bike, ride around. You see a lot of people sort of carving their bike around, practicing cornering, but I'd also maybe practice some trial skills. They're really easy to do in the car park, and check out our video on 5 essential trial skills that every mountain biker should know. Now we're going to look at an endo. So this is all about getting the back wheel off the floor, using your front brake and your weight. So the way to do this is first do a pump, then bring your hips up and forward towards the bars, and apply that front brake. Once you've got a hang of that and you haven't sent yourself over the bars, you can start doing a rolling endo or a stoppie. Same thing, I'm just going to keep the bike moving. QUINN BRUSSEL asks, what bike is that in the background? Well, it was in last week's Ask GMBN as well. This is my brand new Scott Genius LT Plus. You might have seen me riding it recently. I did have the LT last year, and this is the Plus version. So it's got boost, fork and rear end, slightly wider hub, and it's 2.8. So the Plus, big tyres on it. Really liking it so far. ORESTIS KIRIAKIDIS asks, I have a cross-country bike, but I always have to run with 40 to 50 PSI or I'll get punctures. I'll say if you're having to run tyres that hard, that is very hard, I would maybe think about getting a heavier duty tyre. So if you're running a cross-country tyre, maybe move up to a slightly thicker sort of enduro style tyre, might help you out. And if you're not already, go to tubeless. And you can check out our video on how to convert to tubeless. So we're going to talk about converting from a regular setup with a tyre and a tube to a tubeless setup. The main advantages of tubeless is you take away any risk of puncturing by pinching the tube. That means you can start running lower tyre pressures, so you might find more grip. It's also going to be a little bit lighter, so you've got less rotating mass on there. It makes a really big difference to how your bike rides. It will make the bike feel more nimble. Now on to the quick fire round. KARL LINDBERG. I've just got a clutch derailleur for my 1x11 setup. When not riding the bike, is it good to disengage the clutch? No, it doesn't make any difference. It's almost like a ratchet that will only move one way when the cage moves, so don't worry about it. When you're not using the bike, it won't matter. Joe MILNES, how do I persuade my parents to let me get a £2,000 full suspension bike? Well, ask them nicely for one, or why not get a job, paper round and sort of help pay away a little bit, and you don't have to have a brand new bike. Why not look for a cheap second-hand bike, and I'm sure that'll be fine. Emil Wick, I've got a cross-country hardtail and I'm thinking about competing in both cross-country and enduro and only want one bike. What should I go for? I would say to be able to do both of those things, probably a 120, 140mm full suspension bike should be able to do both of them pretty well. Ducati Jake, why is my front brake 10 times stronger than my back brake? It's a new bike. I would say 9 times out of 10 that's probably because you've actually sprayed a bit of oil onto your rear brake. Because your rear brake is near the cassette, it does often get overspray onto it, so double check that your pads don't have anything on there. Dylan BOUCHERON, what are the benefits of a 1x setup? It's simpler. I like the fact that I don't have to mess around with 2 gear shifters, and it's really easy and quick just to get into the gear that I want. Obviously I have less gears and there's a bigger jump in between the gears, but it's much simpler. Oliver DOWZER, how do you remove rounded bottle cage bolts? Because I want to save some money by not taking it to a bike shop. I'd be careful and try and use some mole grips, just to try and grab on the end of them. That can be hard, so it can be sort of rounded bolts. If you can't do that, you're gonna have to drill them and use an easy out. Okay, so now it's time for the correct me if I'm wrong part. You guys can send your video to ask@gmbn.com and I'll look them over and tell you what I think. The first one comes from Powell Cap, and he's been practicing his bunny hop, so let's take a look. Actually looks pretty good. Nice L shape on the manual and then stands up and forward, and he's using a stick to practice, which I think is really good. That really helps to aim at something just to get hop over it. I think actually that bunny hop looks really good. You can maybe pump a little bit more on the way down, so put more force into that downward motion, and that's going to get a little bit higher, but well done Powell, looks really good. On to the next one, and this is from Sam Hughes, and he is hitting a jump. Again, this one looks really good. Nice one, Sam. Sort of a bit of a fly off jump to flat, and you're always aiming to try and match the landing. So if you're landing on the flat, try and land 2 wheels at the same time. If you're going into a down slope, actually nose the bike in and land slightly front wheel first, just because it's getting there first. Looks really good. Nice little sort of technique on the way up of getting behind the bike, pushing the bars forward slightly. Very good. So far, so good. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right, last one is Lee Patterson. Hitting some jumps in New Zealand. Oh, and it goes wrong pretty quickly. So Lee, looks like he pulls on the bars on the takeoff, hits a tree, mate comes flying through and cases the jump and almost goes over the bars. So I think there's a bit of practice for both of you boys there. Definitely try and turn up the jump if it's slightly hipped. I can see you sort of went straight and almost pulled on the bars a little bit. So as you landed, you're firing off in the wrong direction. And there happens to be a tree there, which doesn't help either. And then your mate wants to practice sort of judging his speed for jumps a little bit better, and also maybe a bit more of a hop to clear that jump. But nice one boys, looks like you're having fun. That's it for this week's Ask GMBN. As always, leave your questions down below or send your videos to ask@gmbn.com. I'm going to send you through to how to straighten wheels, because Lee and your mate might need to straighten your wheels after those crashes. And if you click down there, that'll take you through to the unboxing of the Lezyne GPSs, and you can win one of 25 GPSs. Click on the GMBN logo to subscribe. It's totally free, and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video.